sweeter than the fresh come. The old conch is sweeter than the fresh conch, especially when you put it in the peas and rice. Old conch, oh baby, tastes so nice. Mama told me 3 years ago I mustn't marry no lazy girl. Say no lazy girl, no lazy girl, no lazy girl. Say no lazy girl, no lazy girl, no lazy girl. Mama, bake your Johnny cake, Christmas coming. Mama, bake your Johnny cake, Christmas coming. Christmas coming, Christmas coming, Christmas coming, Christmas coming. Welcome, everyone. What a joy it is to share a bit of our vibrant Turks and Caicos Islands culture with you all today. And happy National Heritage Month. I'm Leo Lightbourne, and I have the distinct honor of moderating today's panel. This month provides us with a critical opportunity, a chance to reflect deeply on the rich cultural traditions of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and crucially engage in a meaningful dialogue about how these traditions can be preserved, adapted, and carried forward for future generations. Our theme this year, From Foundation to Future, Preserving Our Culture, Building Our Legacy, perfectly captures this dual responsibility. It emphasizes the need to honor the foundations of our heritage while actively shaping a sustainable and vibrant cultural legacy. This panel is intended to be an interactive platform where stakeholders, cultural practitioners, educators, and our youth can share perspective on heritage preservation, cultural innovation, and the role of culture in nation building. We have gathered an incredible group of individuals whose lives and work exemplify this commitment to our heritage. I will introduce them briefly. Mr. David Bowen is a revered cultural architect and advocate who served as Director of Culture and is the mind behind the creation and development of the beloved Mascanu Festival. Dr. Della Higgs is a social scientist with the Turks and Caicos Islands National Trust, holding the post of Heritage Site and Project Manager, focusing her research on topics like Caribbean identities. Mr. William Bill-Archie Clare, the man for all seasons, is a veteran of 46 years of public service, a passionate local historian, and was the long-term MC for the South Caicos Regatta Festival. Miss Mary Fulford is a purpose-driven entrepreneur and cultural innovator who is redefining Caribbean tourism through island mystiques, luxury, immersive, cultural experiences. Please, let us all give a warm welcome to our panelists by dropping the Turks and Caicos Islands flag emoji in the comment section. We invite you, our audience, to participate actively. Enjoy the show, comment with your thoughts and questions, and share this link widely. Let's play our part in keeping the culture of this country alive. Thank you, and remember, from foundation to future, preserving our culture, building our legacy. Harbor Island, that's where I want to be, Harbor Island. Lots of things to see, Harbor Island. I got sand in my shoes, Harbor Island. Lots of things to do. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Heritage Panel Discussion under the theme, From Foundation to Future, Preserving Our Culture, Building Our Legacy. This theme is in my DNA. I was raised between North Caicos and South Caicos. And I learned early that our strength lies in managing a crucial duality: the quiet, resilient traditions of our out islands and the necessary rapid growth in provinciales. My South Caicos roots connects me to the family still upholding massing traditions. My North Caicos experience gives me a deep respect for the resourcefulness, like the boat building mastered by Pastor Williams. That duality between the foundation and future is the tension that guides our discussion tonight. We have an exceptional group of experts. Let's give a round of applause and drop some flags if you're watching on social media. Now, Mr. Honorable Norman Sanders extends his apologies along with Miss June Oswald. They were supposed to be on this panel with us tonight, so they extend their apologies. Now, we do have a few new faces. I will give them an opportunity to briefly introduce themselves before we dive into the panel discussion. And I'll start with Miss Morgan Seville, right to my left.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sivil Dean-Morgan, and I'm a cultural icon.
Yes, you are.
Of Wheeling,
You better
Blue
talk
Hills.
it. Yes, yes. Miss Musgrove.
I'm the man for all seasons, the one and only Bill-Archie Clare. A retired civil servant, local preacher in the Methodist Church. What more can I say? Really the man for all seasons. Thank you very much.
What a legacy. Miss Musgrove.
Anetra Musgrove, teacher at the A. Louise Garland Thomas High School of Social Science.
Now, as you can see, we have a large panel tonight, so we're going to jump straight into this discussion. We're going to start with the cultural architect, Mr. David Bowen. Now, Mr. Bowen, I can recall many days growing up, you come into our school, and one of the plays you would put on was the Anansi play, right? And there was a time we even did that play in my class. I can remember that. Why are stories like that important to our resilience as a people?
Well, storytelling is a huge part of passing on information. Storytelling not only entertains, because remember, back in the day, we didn't have access to the TV and all the other stuff to watch. Therefore, we had to communicate by telling stories. Also, they pass on information about our history, our culture, and our heritage, and they were entertaining. And a huge part of what I tried to do in the very beginning is to encourage parents, teachers to tell stories, to continue passing on the information, because we grew up with our ancestors telling us stories. Culture is fluid. Culture is learned, and in those stories we learn more about our history, our culture, and our heritage. And we get to know the Anansi story from West Africa, from the Ashanti tribe, but then Babuki and Barabi stories also. Some were funny, some were scary, but most times within the story there's also a moral or a value to learn about your history, your culture, and your heritage.
Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else want to add to that question of storytelling and why it's important before we move on?
I think Mr. Bowen gave us a very good answer to that. Reflecting on my childhood, we look forward to people telling us stories, and they've been passed down through the ages. See, culture is a part of our life. It is what we eat, what we drink. It is how we talk, what we wear. And those stories have come down, and as children, listening to your parents or elders, you like you was in another world. And I can remember about Boki and Bayabi. I mean, it's unbelievable how it has been ingrained into us. And we have a moral obligation to pass that to our children today.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, it brings back memories growing up, especially during the season that we're in right now, hurricane season. You know, when we were boarded up, shut down in the house, we were gathered around much elder people, and it would be a whole night of just storytelling. And what was supposed to be a night of being afraid would be a night filled with inspiration. So I am a part and an extension of those storytellings. Thank you so much for sharing that. A beautiful link to our history. Ms. Morgan, you are a living connection to the Ripsaw music tradition and the longest serving woman in our maritime community. How does our indigenous music serve as a unifying force?
Well, you know, doing what I do, it involves music. And so we crave the rake and scrape. We love it. We could just take the drum, the saw, and whatever we used to use back in those days and make music.
You ain't see me on the drums just now.
I see you. That's why I was right into it. So, I mean, I think we talk about our culture over and over, but we don't really talk about the rake and scrape, which I think we should talk about more. We should get more natives involved in doing the rake and scrape, you know, music. We don't need the guitar and all those things. We could just use the drum, the saw, and even the conch shell, you know, and make music. You know, we even use the pot and the pans, and we make music from that. And we just get down on it. And so I would like to see us put that more in action when it comes to utilizing the rake and scrape.
Thank you so much. Anybody else want to add to that? Mr. David Bowen?
I would definitely like to add something to that. Civil mentioned rake and scrape, but just to clarify for everyone, traditionally, rake and scrape is ripsaw music. The rake and scrape portion came from the Bahamas. There was an MC on the radio, and he was describing what the men were doing to the saw, and they were raking and scraping, and that's how the separation of the islands, the Bahama Islands and the Turks and Caicos Islands, when it comes to ripsaw or rake and scrape. These days it's interchangeable. But just to be clear, our national music is ripsaw music. And going back to storytelling, another form of storytelling is the song, the music. Because when something happened to someone, when something happened on the island, when something happened in the country, sometimes songs were written about that, and that's how we passed on that information, because nothing was written down. Now, there are songs that people can't sing these days because, you know, that was people's business. But a lot of the songs, and I think I want to recognize that there are a number of musicians here who I think are unsung heroes because they still keep the tradition of ripsaw and rake and scrape alive. We are losing them slowly. Crum just passed away from South Caicos. William Seymour. We have Winston Jennings, an amazing songwriter. We have Foots Dennis Penn and Grand Turk, an amazing songwriter and player. And I really feel that I know that the government is involved with many festivals, and I have been trying for years to have a real Ripsaw festival. Now, I'm not talking about the Rake and Scrape festival that happens, because a festival that celebrates culture through music, and if you don't have a saw, you can't call it a Rake and Scrape festival. Having a drum machine or having a guitar player or a keyboard player, I really feel I'm strongly an advocate of the music. I play the harmonica, I play the drums, and I am sure that if we get together, and I'm looking forward to working with the new director of culture, and to give us some ideas and to help her also to bring forth more appreciation. As Sivil said, we need to see more of the Ripsaw in the schools, more of the Rake and Scrape. And I must commend the Department of Education, because the schools, especially starting with Ms. Taylor all the way up in 5 Keys there, that there was always that push for the children to learn about music and to learn about storytelling through the Ripsaw music. So yes, you'll be seeing a lot more of Ripsaw music and a lot more of me.
Thank you so much. Mr. Clare, I know you want to say something, but before you say something, I just want to acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Rachel Taylor, Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sport. Sorry about that. You can.
I think my mic. I just want to add to what Sivil and David said. I grew up in East Harbor. Let me make that clear. Even though today we talk about the Big South. She spoke about the Ripsaw. David, you spoke about the unsung heroes. My memory goes back to the days when Goo Jennings, Herman Rigby, Harry Bean, Lil Sam, and Joe Williams. Mr. Harry Bean and Goo Jennings played the concertina or the accordion. Herman and Sam played the guitar. Joe beat the drum. Someone had the saw, and someone else had a bottle with a big nail hitting it. My memory take me to Christmas Day. They were the ones who provided the music for what we call the masses from 5 o'clock in the morning. When Leo McGuire came into South Caicos, that's when we really got the name, when the island claimed its name of South Caicos. At the Admiral's Arms Hotel, when tourists came, he brought Goo Jennings and his crew there. The tourists was taken back. For them, it was the first time they were seeing this type of music. I remember Mr. Parker in our nation's capital in Grand Turk. And I was at Solki Day when it originally started. And I remember seeing Mr. James E. Simmons on his accordion. Now we've lost some of that. We need to reclaim it. And we need to start in the schools to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clare. If you are listening on social media, please share some questions. We will be taking questions at the end of this discussion, so drop your questions, drop your Turks and Caicos flag. We're just getting started. Now, we move to the pivotal events that shaped our identity. Dr. Higgs, I need your assistance now. What significant historical events from our traditional soil raking economy have fundamentally shaped our cultural roots?
Salt raking economy. So I think that for the Salt Island and the Bermudan Adventures, and we've all learned about the Bermuda Adventures in school. and the salt industry. Today was just an awesome day spent at Enid Capron School in Five Keys, and where these kids, they highlighted and displayed the work in economic industries of the Turks and Caicos Islands. And they reenacted working in the salt pans. They reenacted the donkeys. It was just amazing, the work that these children did. And I think that being on these islands and being there and working in the hard work that the ancestors did, and the hard work in the sun, and the life expectation of the ancestors during this time that they worked, I think a lot of that definitely molded the contemporary Turks and Caicos Islanders of today, because of the significance of that hard work in those salt raking was, and we all know, and we've all learned about it, you know, the most difficult industry and hard work with the least life expectancy for the ancestors to do. And I think that a lot of that has been passed down to contemporary Turks and Caicos Islanders right now, in terms of the hard work that we do to keep the country thriving and striving. So I think that definitely it's been able to, and we can see it at work today when we look at our our cultural heritage and our active cultural heritage on display, in which I was a part of today with our students at the Enid Capron Primary School in Five Keys.
Mr. Clare, I would like you to add to that, and I'm asking you because I grew up in South Caicos, and my grandmother would tell me stories about taking food to her father while he raked salt. So I would like to hear your perspective on that question.
Okay, let me be clear. Historically, according to Mr. Sadler's account, the Bermudans came here in the 1600s to start salt. And we have, I'm going to answer you, we have some of their names today with us. The Butterfields, Fripps, Swan, and Brown. I grew up in East Harbor, which is the island that produced the most salt. My dad drove a 5-ton truck. In the salt pans, there was no machinery to break up the salt. The man had to use pickaxe and shovel the salt into those trucks. They had no hair on their legs because of the pickle. They had to fill the truck up, and then when the truck get back to the deposit, they had to shovel it out before the trucks actually came as dump trucks. It was laborious work, but it showed their strength and their character and their commitment, because salt was all that they had. In East Harbor, salt and the lobster industry kept us alive. So I know about it, and I had to leave. I live near the bay in East Harbor, and I had to walk a few miles to take my father breakfast, or his tea and bread, and a slice of fish, or a piece of cake, or something else my mom had. But that was it. And at about 11:30 or 10:30, they came home and get something else to eat and went back to work until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You had to live it to actually believe it. I lived through it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a powerful history lesson. Anybody else wants to, Mr. Bowen?
I had the distinct privilege of growing up in Grand Turk and playing on the salt hills, we called them those days, when the pile of salt, especially outside with the prisoners. My grandfather was the first native police inspector, Inspector Julius A. Baker. Spent a lot of time in South Caicos, and I would walk with him from our house on West Road down to the Middle Road, and there, just by the bay, was all the salt. And when I first came home, after traveling and being away for a long time, I was back in Grand Turk, and I was so filled with memories that I wrote this down. Who am I, you ask? I am a salt raker. I work in the pond, beginning at dawn till I'm tired and worn. My muscles sore in my arms and back from raking and packing the salts in these sacks. Raking and baking under a sun, I dare not stop till the work is done. You see what I wear? But master don't care. It's all I have, these clothes and this hat, and he don't give me more than that. Look closely at these sores on my skin. Oh, Lord, the suffering. Now look at the scars on my back. Let me tell you about that. From my first day on that slave ship, I came to know the devil whip. I was young and strong and fought for my rights during the heat of the day and the dark of the nights. But there was no freedom for me to gain, so I hold my tongue and hide my pain behind the thickness of these African lips. Because the more I fight, the more he whips. Some days the pain will cause me to weep. The sound of my own cries will lull me to sleep. These are the days I wish I would die, but this is my lot, and God knows why. My skin, yes, I'm black, but the salt and the sun burn me blacker than that. My only refuge is the shade from this old straw hat. I wonder, can you imagine that? You might feel sorry for me. My life is hard, but my soul is free. My heart beats strong like a goatskin drum, because I know who I am. I know where I come from. So, rake salt I rake, hot sun on my back. My hands are raw, my lips dry and cracked. My back is broken by the weight of these sacks. Who am I, you ask? I am a salt raker, a Turk silent slave, and rake salt I rake until my grave. So I thought that was...
Let's clap for that.
I would read that to the students so they understand that they see the pictures of the guy standing in the salt pond and it looks nice, you know, but I really want to give them a good visual of what our ancestors did, because we forget that we are standing on their backs and what they did. So all of that blood, sweat, and tears in the salt ponds is for us to be where we are and who we are at this time. So, Mr. Clare, I understand what your father went through, and of course his parents before them, but we have to really give thanks for those salt rakers who did that, and that industry and how it affected our lives and where we are right now. So thank you for that.
David, you mentioned, am I on? You mentioned about the pile of salt that you saw in Grand Turk. Those heaps of salt went up about 40 to 50 feet. And you wonder how the men did it, but they did it. It's amazing. If you have some time, visit the Heritage House at the Methodist Church in Leawood. There are 2 portraits of salt that was being done in Salt Key. The photographs I have there. Check with Lorleen Malcolm. You'll see what we're talking about. It will chill you.
Thank you, Mr. Clare. Ms. Musgrove, I think you want to add in?
Yes, I was just going to say that Mr. Bowen poem reminded me of the narratives of Mary Prince, a slave in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And her writings actually led to the assistance with the abolition movement in the Caribbean. In addition to that, before the Bermudans arrived in the Turks and Caicos Islands, salt was already being traded throughout the Caribbean amongst, the Tainos traded with the other Tainos in Jamaica and Hispaniola. They also traded bone fish. So the trade industry was actually occurring well before the Bermudians arrived, before the Europeans arrived here in the Caribbean with Turks and Caicos Islands.
Thank you so much, Ms. Musgrove. And thank you, panelists, for Oh, Mr. Bowen, you have something else to add before I... Okay. Now,
I should point out, the salt from the islands was sent to New York to put on the streets during winter. It was also sent to Canada, where they used it to cure the codfish, which was sent back to the Caribbean.
It was actually recorded in history that George Washington actually said that Turks and Caicos Islands had the best salt in the world.
We've been on the map. Long time. Thank you, panelists, for anchoring us in our historical reality. The challenge is no longer merely preserving the past. It's marketing, monetizing, and institutionalizing it for the future. We must use innovation to defend what Mr. David Bowen and Mr. Clare have worked so hard to keep alive. We now turn our focus to innovation. I'll put my hat on now. It's the future time, it's the young people time. Put my hat on, okay. Wait. Ms. Fulford, through your company, Island Mystique, you offer off-beaten path, immersive cultural tours, from foodie dives to bird watching. You are monetizing authentic local lifestyles. How does cultural entrepreneurship help protect and preserve our culture amid the pressures of mass tourism?
Okay, so when you think about what we do through Island Mystique, one of the key things to me has always been about sustainability. How do we build a sustainable business, not just from the business model, but through the practices that we also implement? So when you think about the different experiences, one of the key things for my company is that we don't really focus on mass tourism. It's about personalization, so we focus on smaller groups, because those groups want to have a more intimate interaction. And you can't get that through bigger groups and experiences. So we focus on that. But when you think about the different experiences that we do, when I first started building out Island Mystique in 2021, I remember going to North Caicos and meeting with Casey Higgs, and Sinclair drove me around to so many other different elders who lived in North Caicos, and they were telling me stories about different things that happened, the thatchberry tree and the thatchberry wine and how they bury it and they take it out during Christmas time and they drink it. So there was so much stories that I didn't even know. I was so surprised. And even now when I talk about it to different persons, they're like, that happened? They're just so surprised. And so this is a way for us to keep that culture alive, is getting the information, and then what we do is we offer those experiences, but in a way that maintains the authenticity. So we cater to luxury clientele, and the way you deliver luxury in this context is around the experience, what you give them to take away, and not necessarily diluting what the cultural tradition is. So if you think about our traditional cooking class, you know, we do the cold pot outside, the chicken sauce. I mean, they were so surprised. They loved it. I remember a lady, she traded her crab and rice with another lady for more of the chicken sauce. Like, they was just like, what is this? And they were so excited.
Did you put potatoes in those chicken?
No,
okay.
There's no potatoes, because that's not a Turks and Caicos thing. But it is a way for us to protect the culture. It's a way for us to preserve the culture, and also for us to share it in meaningful ways with different persons. Because what you notice coming out of that is that we are all connected. Whether you live in the States, whether you live in Europe, wherever you live, you find that there's just little bits and pieces that connect persons. When we did the crab experience, the lady from New Orleans, she was just like, oh, I'm familiar with this because we did this in New Orleans, and they talk about their different traditions. So it's a way for us to connect. But the information that we get, we use it for the experiences, and so we preserve and we use that to promote it, but in a sustainable way that makes sure that persons within the community also benefit. And a part of that, I know I'm going a little bit longer, but a part of that, if you think about through our Mystique Atelier Circle, where we do turn down amenities for hotel resorts, we partner with local vendors and artisans who we create unique different craft products, and then we sell them to the hotel. So that's another way for us to preserve and make sure that the community, the locals, are at the forefront and play a very integral role in the tourism industry and the cultural heritage preservation. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Fulford. Ms. Dr. Higgs?
Because I talked a lot, Ms. Fulford, she did her research. When she was beginning her company, she did her research. And I can attest to that because she came to me on many occasions and we had talks. And I think that what she's doing, and I'm so proud every time that, I see her on display somewhere talking about what she's doing in terms of tourism, in terms of holding on to our cultural heritage and sharing that with our visitors. I applaud that because we look at tourism today, and global tourism. Tourism is just, and we look around the Caribbean, it's been watered down. And in the Turks and Caicos, and not just the Turks and Caicos, you look around the Caribbean, you look around any country that has been affected by slavery and then gain some independence. I know we're still a colonial entity here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, but I look at it as we remove the slave plantation and we turn the resorts. It's just an extension of the plantation, okay? And so what do we offer that it's not marketed to the world? That's the sun, sand, and sea. Service, sun, sand, and sea. That's what we offer in the Caribbean. Service, sun, sand, and sea. And being able to have experiences like our bird, we have in the Turks and Caicos Islands, we have the best bird watching. We have the best, we have birds in the Turks and Caicos Islands that are extinct, but we can find here on East Caicos. And so, the Turks and Caicos Natural Trust, we partnered last year. We had a bird certification training, and now we have local certified bird trainers in the Turks and Caicos. So we need to tap into people like this. We need to tap into these kind of off the beaten, however that term goes, so that we hold on to our tradition. We hold on to our cultural heritage. We hold on to what is pure, and we hold on what is authentic Turks and Caicos Islands historical heritage preservation and experiences. Thank you.
We'll let Ms. Morgan go, and then you, Mr. Clear.
Okay, touching on, she touched on the food. Ms. Fulford touched on the chicken sauce, and she said food. So I would just like to add something about the journey cake. Some people call it Johnny cake. It's not Johnny cake. What I learned from my grandparents, it was journey cake. Journey. Because when they used to go to the fields, they call it farm other places, but we call it field here. We actually grew things here in Provo. Randy could tell you about it. Edgar's kind of young, but I'm sure he was around when we used to grow things in the field, right? So when our grandparents used to go to the field, they spend like the whole week. They would build like a camp, like a small house to live in for the week and take care of their field, their farming and stuff like that. And so they would, of course they had to find food. So what they would do, they would make this journey cake. And this journey cake was made up of flour, salt, sugar, and margarine. That's it. Nowadays, they add a little bit more to it to enhance it a bit, which I think isn't so bad, but it got worse. It's loaded Johnny cake now. They're putting cinnamon and nutmeg and all these things in
All
it.
them
And
things.
so it turned out to be something like shortbread. It's not Johnny cake. When you go out and you buy these things, it's not Johnny cake. It's shortbread. So I just wanted to talk about that because every time I see the Johnny cake, it makes me, I'd be like, what? This is not Johnny cake. They changed the whole idea of Johnny cake. And they used to eat that when they used to, you know what they used to drink with it? Sweetened water.
Switcher.
Switcher.
That's switcher? Okay, so,
No. Switcher was something different. That was made with lemon.
okay, so just sweetened water.
Sweetened water, sugar and water. And they swallow that down, the Johnny cake down with that. And that used to keep them for the whole day. They did their work in the field with that Johnny cake power that empowered them. And so, please, some people still doing it the old-fashioned way. You might add a little egg and coronation cream in it. And so that makes it still taste like Johnny cake. But when you're going to add all those other things, no, that's not Johnny cake. Don't fool yourself. And also in the fields, we used to grow things like that's what we used to eat. We didn't have anything here. So we grew things like papaya, okra, pigeon peas, potatoes, pumpkin, cassava, green beans, those nice, pretty green beans. I love them. And I don't see them much anymore. I see some things in the store called spackle beans. That reminds me of it, but that still can't come close to it. You know, sweet potato, corn, watermelon, just to name a few of them. I'm sure Mr. Bill Clare, he probably remembers some of them because I came here like in the 60s, so he would know more than me. But I learned a lot from my grandparents because they used to also make the coal chill, the coal kill. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing it. I remember as a child seeing it and how they put the hole on both ends so the smoke can come out. And they used that coal to do many things with, including pressing the clothes. They used the goose iron, and they put the coal in the goose iron, and they would put it outside on a high-rising area so the breeze, wherever the breeze is blowing from, it would go through that little window that is in the back of the iron, and they would move it across so the breeze can get through it, and it would kick-start the coal. And when the iron get hot enough, they'd bring it in the house and press the clothes. So I could even talk about the mill, grinding the corn, the dry corn. The green corn, we used to roast it, but the dry corn, we used to grind it in the mill, the grind corn mill. And they would, to get the texture for the grits, it would be a little bit larger than the texture that they use for the cornmeal and the, what the other one is, David? The cornmeal and the corn flour. Right. So that's where we got the cornmeal and corn flour from here in Turks and Caicos, from the corn, where we grind the corn in the mill. And so I think I touched on the main parts that I really would like to get across today.
Well, Ms. Morgan, thank you so much. I didn't know Provo people used to go in fields and things. You educate me tonight.
We grew up off of that.
Oh, thank you. And also, what do you...
Along with the fish and conch that our parents would bring from when they go out in the boat. The fish and the conch, we put that with it, the conch and grits, and they would make the hog bush soup with the green beans and the cow, they call it the hog meat. They used to call this, they call it pork today, but it was the hog meat back then. Yes. And so they used to put all of that in the hog bush soup, and buds and rice. We have buds in Provo, you know, not only Grand Turk.
Okay.
We have buds here too.
Okay.
I remember my mommy cooking buds.
Now, if you say Wilkes, you're taking it far.
Oh, Wilkes? What? Randy, tell them about it. Wilkes? Oh, we used to eat that.
Okay.
We still got it, but not as much because the people who came here, they know about it, and they'll go and get all before we could go and get it.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan, for sharing that. Mr. Clare.
We've just had a walk of history, so to speak.
I'm telling you.
I'm going to really give it to you. At the present moment, we have the present census is in process. It has been estimated by a number of individuals that our population is just under 50,000. I heard two quotes, 49,000, 48,000. Some people believe that the population is 55, 45. The foreign nationals make up a fair amount of our population. To me, this is a threat in itself. It has been said because of this, we have a clash of cultures. We think of our local dishes, and I'm glad she talked about the Johnny cake. When did we introduce curry into the Turks and Caicos Islands? A question mark. When did crack kung come into the Turks and Caicos? I'll tell you that. Sam Lightbourne brought it from the Bahamas. I was here in Provo during the 70s. We talk about the sauce and the Johnny cake. The whole mixture is not what the original one was, as she said. The taste is different. The end product. And we ask why. Check the people who are making it. Check our restaurants. How many locals are there? These people, in essence, don't really know what they're doing in some respects. And I make no apology for that. We got to get back to the basics. When the tourist comes here, they want something local. They want the real thing, not the imitation. And I think the time has come when we need to do that. In our community college, one of the things I find interesting here is cake baking. And that's an art. Not many people can really bake the real cake. You get the raisin stuck to the bottom. Some of them are soft. I think the time has come, Madam Minister of Education. You're on the spot for the college to expand with it. Adjunct lectures in the area of food preparation. Teach various courses and how to cook genuine foods. I can give you a copy of what I got here. But we're living in a very good time in these islands. Trying times. We need to do, government not only must talk the talk, Minister. They must walk the walk. Thank you.
Ms. Musgrove, I'm coming to you right now with a question. Do you want to add to this as well?
I think another issue is not just the expat population. A lot of us have left the Turks and Caicos Islands, and we've returned here, and we've returned with the influence of other cultures, and we've infused it with the cultures that we've been introduced to in other places with our own. So we're creating a new culture, and it's very concerning that sometimes that we create the new and we forget the past. And that's one of the biggest issues. So for instance, John Canoe. We like to sell John Canoe as if it's something of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and we do it on a regular basis. A few years ago, when tourists exited the terminal, the first thing they saw was a John Canoe costume. Why? Because of those external influences. By us traveling elsewhere, living elsewhere, and bringing those cultures back home, and forgetting exactly the foundation of our own culture. And I think it's very important, especially for the government, when promoting the Turks and Caicos Islands, that we promote our culture and not the cultures of others.
Indeed. Mr. Bowen?
Yeah, just to kind of go back to when you were talking about monetizing the culture. A big problem that we will have is that when people start thinking about, okay, let me see, how can I use culture to make some money? It's very easy to copy what has been done in other places and place it under the cultural banner. I remember someone, a few times, people try to bring carnival here. Carnival is from the Eastern Caribbean. It's based on Lent. It's a religious experience. It's not just someone having a party, but we bring carnival here under culture. As you said about Junkanoo, the word Junkanoo itself, again, believe it or not, it goes back to John Canoe or Johnny Canoe. If you go back into Jamaican history and culture and go back to even in North Carolina, there is John Canoe, and Bermuda, and back in the day, even in Trinidad, they had the John Canoe. So what I want to say is that when we start to think about making money from culture, be mindful to try to stay true to the traditions of the Turks and Caicos and not just tap into what someone else is doing in the Eastern Caribbean or in other areas of the Caribbean to make money. And we have seen a shift in our festivals because our festivals are now resembling those in the Eastern Caribbean and other, because an event that has a cultural banner, it's only about music, whining, drinking, and getting your belly full. There is nothing cultural being presented at that event. Even though the banner says, whatever day, whatever culture, it's just everybody whining, everybody drinking, and everybody getting the belly full. There was nothing in the show to explain why are we celebrating, what is this event for, why do we have this particular cultural event in this particular island. So I am hopeful that there is some regulation that when someone applies for a license to have a so-called festival, they will have to present a wonderful concept of how they're going to promote culture, history, and heritage, and not just have a party and make some money. So be sure that if you are doing something cultural, make sure it celebrates, showcases, and promotes our history, our culture, and the heritage.
Thank you so much. Now panel, mine. We can't do this all now. 2 minutes. I'm giving each of you.
I think we need to do more when it comes to preserving our culture. I agree with David 100%, right? We need to be more serious about it. We need to make it compulsory. We need to instill it in our kids so that when they go to the schools, they can teach the teachers. You know, they need to, like say the maypole, we dance the maypole. I'm sure you probably didn't reach the dance yet, but I'm gonna hit it.
Go ahead.
Maypole, we do the maypole dancing, and I think that a maypole station should be at each primary school in each settlement. One maypole in each settlement, primary school, there should be a maypole station. So when the children are on break, they can go and play around with the maypole, and they would learn just like that. If they want me to come to the school and teach them, I'll go to the school and teach them. But don't give me nothing else to do. I'll teach them. I know, my dancers, when they used to come to dance, we try to dance, like even the regular dance. I normally call people in to help me with the dance, right? To teach them. But there were times when I had to teach them myself. And I say, oh, Lord, what I can do now? But I can't let the children go back home. I got to teach them. And David, I teach them. I remember teaching them green corn time, how to dance that. And I got that out of the way, and I was so proud. So you have to use what you got. You have to be ready at all times. You have to be prepared. You have to, you have to be on your tippy toes to take place. You bring this thing about, so hey, you got to be the captain. You got to be able to do everything. And so I teach them the maypole, and I was able to teach them that dance, and most of the times I give the teachers like moves, different moves, like the old time moves to incorporate in the dance, so that we bring that out and they would know, more about how the old people used to dance back in the days. So I think we should work on those maypole stations, Minister of Education, and you can call on me and I will teach them. Because every Heritage Month, I'm called upon to do this and do that. And even for the maypole. So, yes, I would like to see that happen.
It's on record now. Go ahead, Mr. Clare.
David mentioned about carnival from the religious standpoint of view. 2 carnivals in the Caribbean reflects that. In Trinidad, carnival is held just before Ash Wednesday. And Haiti is the same thing. On Ash Wednesday, thousands of people in Trinidad go to church to confess their sins that they committed during that weekend. In Haiti, according to Reverend Toussaint, there's a similar thing. The women go, they're dressed in white. But we could never really have carnival like what they have in Trinidad and in Haiti or on the other Eastern Caribbean islands. The other thing is our music. We're talking about culture now in its real sense and its implications. Music, you listen to our national radio and the other radio stations. The majority of music are foreign artists. How many of our local artists' music is actually being played? The Bahamas has a very strict thing when it comes to that. Every time you play a foreign song, you better have a Bahamian song to back that up with. And so I think the government, the Department of Culture and Tourism, need to find funds available for the locals, the local artists, to encourage them to pursue and to expand and develop their own music. Thank you.
I think we all can agree. Preserving culture must be formalized and modernized. Traditional mentorship alone is no longer enough. We need policy. Miss Anetra Musgrove, you are actively involved in leading youth cultural engagement, like the National Museum Annual History and Cultural Quiz, Heritage Quiz. How do you use modern platforms to make history and culture more engaging and easier to connect for young people?
I think the most important thing is introducing our heritage and our culture into our education system. I think that's something that we're lacking and something that we need to improve upon. However, the Department of Education is working on that at this point in time. We're working on developing a local studies curriculum within the Turks and Caicos Islands. I think what's lacking is that you have a lot of our educators who are not locals and they're not privy to the information. So we need to make the information readily accessible. It isn't difficult to achieve. I think sometimes, however, we make it seem to be difficult because we are an archipelago and each one of our islands have their own specific culture and heritage to them. So it's introducing it to our students at the youngest age possible, because if we want to carry on our local Turks and Caicos Islands culture, that's where we should start, because we have to recognize that the majority of our students are from expat families, and so they're not going to be taught it at home. However, we can introduce it to them within the schools. I think another thing is developing policy to ensure that TCI culture is introduced all throughout every part of the Turks and Caicos Islands within all aspects. And education is one of the ways to do it. I think we need our own textbooks, and I also think we need our own examination process. I think we need to stop being reliant and dependent of external examinations. That may be deterring us from introducing our local studies to the capacity at which we want to do so, because we're so busy preparing our students for external examinations that we're not able to cover our local studies as best as possible.
Amazing. Any
When we talk about teaching our students our local history, our culture, and teaching them to be proud of that and stand stoic, you know, in the idea of being Turks and Caicos Islander, and teaching them and having, when you ask them their identity as Turks and Caicos Islander, and you go to any school now and you ask them about their cultural identity, no one can give you an answer, none of these students, because they do not know. And everything that is external, they think it's better than anything that is made, that is authentic Turks and Caicos Islands. Anything UK is better, North America, it's better than anything that we have grown here. And I think that that must be priority in our schools today. Like I said, I had the privilege at Enid Capron. These kids did a wonderful job. And like Ms. Musgrove was saying, most of our students are expats, you know, and so they wrote poetry and essays, and I kid you not one name was a local name of the children on the wall that wrote these essays and these poetries, not one. And I looked intentionally, you know. So it has to be priority that these children that are in our schools today, that are growing up in the country, they know and they learn about Turks and Caicos identity, cultural heritage, to be proud in that, to stand in that, to be included in that. Because you know the saying, if a child doesn't feel the warmth of the country, it'll burn it down to feel, but you know what I'm saying, okay? And so these kids need to be included. You know, and even the teachers, look at our teachers that are in our school. Most of them are expats, you know. When they're coming into the country, there has to be a course. There has to be something that teaches about the Turks and Caicos Islands. We have students in high school that are coming out of high school that I work with that are telling me they learned about Jamaican history. Not about history of the Turks and Caicos. So it has to be priority if we are trying to build a country that are smart and identities that produce a populace that stands stoically and be able to define a valued identity outside of, yes, we know, you know, expat, we know slavery, colonialism, everything, but we have to be able to describe, to design a valued identity for the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Thank you, Dr. Higgs. Mary?
So just to briefly add, what I wanted to add to that is, so the Department of Culture did a really good job, I think, this year with the workshops that they were doing with the different bush medicines and remedies, and I would like to see something like that happening on a consistent basis, and persons, not even just children, but even younger adults can participate and learn from the elders who've actually done this for years. So you have the straw making, when Sivil talked about how to make the accurate journey cake, on the traditional cove stove pot, the boat building, all these different things, they're going to diminish with the people who actually hold those stories and know how to do it. And that's something that I've actually thought about recently through my company, is that, wow, this is just a small amount of people who know about it. And if you go to the sister islands, you'll find more persons who know more information, who actively do it. And I'm just like, it's something that we should pass down, not just to children, but that persons can participate in constantly learning about bush medicine. I mean, I saw Courtney today, he was giving me a whole lecture about bush medicine and the soursop for this, and like bringing you this so you could use it for this. So it's just a learning experience, and I feel like it can be valuable to persons, not even just children in school, but adults as well, you know, so we can pass on that same tradition going forward.
In addition to that, the Department of Culture actually has the digital archive, and it would be nice if more persons will actually contribute to that. There are a lot of persons in the Turks and Caicos Islands and outside the Turks and Caicos Islands who could actually contribute to that. However, they have to know that it exists, and they have to understand that they do have the ability to contribute, and they should, because it would be an injustice to our islands that they don't.
They must know that their voices needs to be heard, because a lot of people in these communities feels voiceless, you know, because their voices, and when nobody's coming to them with a mic or asking them, you know, what are your thoughts? What did you do? What, you know? But these are the people with the wealth of knowledge about traditions, and that can pass down all of this knowledge and traditions to contemporary Turks and Caicos Islands.
We also have to understand that with the digital archive, you have a lot of elderly people who may not know how to use it. So it'd be nice if you would have young persons who do know how to use technology, who have access to these persons, who could assist them with recording the information. I think that's one thing that we need to improve upon, because we can't just assume that persons know how to use it. We have to teach persons how to use it.
We must collect these stories from these people before they leave us. We must collect stories.
I just want to briefly add to the discussion. I've gone through with my mom, like I would be calling her when I'm with her, and I would say, tell me the stories that, you know, you've heard growing up, or different things, and even like the clothes that they wear, and I'm like, I need inspiration, but I also find that it's such, and it's so interesting and captivating when you hear about the stories of what they wear and how they used to do different things. And, you know, my grandmother would tell us stories, and I always cherished going by my grandmother's house, and we would sit on the porch, and I mean, they'll tell you stories about people who died a long time ago. You don't know who they're talking about, but it was so captivating and interesting, and you learned more about who you are as a people. And I want to see, like they both mentioned, how we can continue the archive. I think is a very good step, because persons are now be able to access information about Turks and Caicos culture. When you go online, it's very difficult to find information, and that's why I had to go to the communities, to the people who know it, to find information and literally write my own notes and create that from different things that they said. But I would love to see that, you know, really being pushed forward, and a lot more persons contributing to those efforts.
Thank you so much for such an amazing discussion. We are now transitioning into our final segment. In this one here, I'm only asking for 2 minutes, okay guys? 2 minutes each person. I'm gonna put you on a timer. And for this segment, we're gonna talk about actionable policy. We're now gonna map out a blueprint for nation building. Beyond the classroom, what specific innovative programs, for example, mentorship, vocational, digital, can permanently bridge the generational knowledge gap? I'll start with you, Dr. Higgs.
What kind of knowledge, you said, can bridge the generational gap?
Innovative programs.
Innovative programs.
Yes.
Okay. I think that I have just been working with some international group with the Turks and Caicos National Tribes, and a part of that was going into the communities and doing ethnographic work. And ethnographic work is when you go into communities, talk to people, gather their stories, gather the knowledge from them. And I think that having a program where you can match, say, young academics you know, with the older communities and have some type of ethnographic program where these people collect, these young academics collect stories, digitize these stories in their word, because they're listening it from the elders, and they're telling in their words, and they're telling how it happened, but they can digitize it and make it, bring it into contemporary, modern today words, and make it accessible for their generations. And then another generation, you know, can move it further, and another generation, another generation. So I think that we need to, that's one way, developing some ethnographic program where we put elders with young academics in terms of learning about the history, cultural heritage, and the way of life, and their way of life back in the day.
Thank you, Dr. Higgs. Mr. Bowen?
Well, I spoke earlier about the fact that whenever we have a national festival, if the government is sponsoring these festivals, that the persons who are in charge of the festivals, they have to ensure that the culture and the heritage is promoted at the festival. Yes, we can have lots of fun, but it should not just be on whining, drinking, and eating. It has to be more than just that. The next thing is, I realize that the children today, they're not going to sit through a lecture to be told what is this, what is that. They want to be engaged. So I've been doing something for the last 15 years called cultural edutainment, where I educate you while I entertain you. So you bring that to the table, and that will also spark people interest in the performing arts. That's one thing we're missing in this country. Drama, dance, music, poetry, writing. Many other Caribbean countries, a lot of their social commentary is in the music, it's in the poetry, it's in the drama. We have a very thin skin in this country, and if anywhere else in the Caribbean, if a politician or someone do something crazy, a song will come out, a poetry or a drama, and the whole country going to celebrate that, even the politician. But in our country, we say boo and oh, yeah. So social commentary, we are so thin-skinned here, and that's a sign of immaturity. So as we mature as a country, hopefully we can write those songs, write those stories, and have fun, because not only does it create entertainment, but it also gives you food for thought, and it helps to build the next generation of politicians, because they realize that whatever they do is going to be aware for everyone to see. So I think my part is that ensure that whenever we do anything, it's always promoting the history, the culture, and the heritage, no matter what. Not just the fun aspect of it, but the intellectual aspect of it.
Hey, Mr. Bowen, I'm gonna let you speak, Ms. Morgan. Mr. Bowen, the potential is there, you know, because when the stimulus was coming, the song come the next day. Stimulus in my pocket. So the potential there.
Yes,
it's
there. Definitely there. It's definitely there. So that's my 2 cents.
Disappear. To add to what David Bowen said, because culture isn't 2D, it's 3D, and I would like to see like immersion centers where people can actually walk in, and if you've been to these immersive studios, you know, you can hear you would hear music playing, and it's almost like it's invigorating with you. You can hear the sound of the waves. So imagine if we had something where we recreated, let's say, the Junkanoo Club with the whole story. I love the documentary. If we had that being redone, or even if persons like me who can't dive, and you go into this immersive center where you're diving, you're seeing the coral. So you have all these different ways to engage persons and really keep the story in a more 3D way, where people actually really retain the information. Because I know for me, sitting through lectures can be, you know, after 30 minutes, you kind of, your mind kind of go in different places. But when you get immersed into it, I think it's a deeper sense of appreciation and connection to the stories that are being told, and a way for not only us, our locals, to interact and to learn more, but people who come to Turks and Caicos to understand about our culture. What I've come to know is a lot of people come here, and they come here consistently, but they can't tell you about the Turks and Caicos culture. They can enjoy the junkanoo music, don't know anything about the junkanoo music, just sound good and they want to move. So, you know, when you bring context, like David Bowen saying, context, why this is done, what is this, it makes it more, people connect more to it, but it creates a connection.
Amazing.
So I would like to add something about the culture, keeping the culture alive and all that type of thing. I've been, you know, working with the kids of the community for 25 years. This year is going to make me 25 years I've been working with them. And this year, at the Christmas celebration that we normally have, we're going to be featuring the theme, the best of TCI culture. And so we're going to have the rake and scrape there, and the rake and scrape will include the accordion as usual, right? I couldn't leave that out. The accordion, I forgot it, but Mr. Clare mentioned it. The accordion plays a pivotal role in that rake and scrape band. And we're going to have drummers, like David mentioned, we're going to have that. So come out on the 20th of December, 2025, and see the best of TCI culture. I'm working hard towards it, and I hope it turned out 100%.
Mr. Clear?
Some time ago, we had a group, a cultural group, Friends of the Art, that perform on a few occasions. I don't know what has happened to it today. We have the Turks and Caicos National Choir. I spoke to the Honorable Sean Malcolm about it, the former leader. He has assured me a new leader has been selected and the group will be revived. Last year, my wife and I spent our 35th anniversary in Jamaica, a wedding anniversary. This year, I spent my 80th birthday. On both occasions, and prior to that, we went to a cultural show in Jamaica. I did the same thing in Guyana. The time has come when, through our educational institutions, our schools, the community college, our churches, the various civic groups and NGOs, we need to do something to get this culture back. My question is to all of us here tonight, what happens when we disappear from the stage? What has been said, I believe it's been recorded. Will there be a tape made? Will it be shown to the high schools and to the other groups? If we don't do that, then it's a disservice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clear, for your powerful words. Ms. Musgrove?
I think we need to bring storytelling back. Mr. David Bowen does an excellent job with that. Every year he comes to A. Louise Garland Thomas High School, and there's always something new that we learn. And the children enjoy that. I think we need more storytellers. I can remember my Grammy telling me stories about North and Middle Caicos. And I remember the first time I went to North Caicos, I was able to visualize it in my head. I was able to see North Caicos the way she saw it in her eyes. And I think my daughter could say the same with the stories that my mother tells her about Salt Cay, growing up in Salt Cay and Grand Turk. And she was also able to visualize North Caicos based on the stories that we shared with her, that our grandmother shared with us. So she knew those places before she saw them. So I think storytelling is very important. If you want to be able to continue it, we must continue telling our stories, sharing our stories, and then our children would be able to do the same. Because just how I can do it with her, she will do it in turn with her children, and our children will do it in turn with my future descendants.
But the storytelling, personal for me growing up listening to my grandmother, she was the best storyteller in the whole entire universe. And I learned about John Cayenne, Kodombi in the bush and all, and just being able to listen to her stories. And I think I look forward to that so much, and that's a how I got into when I went to college and being able to pursue a degree in English and poetry. And that's because of what I gained from my grandmother, who wasn't able to, go and have to university, get a college education. But the way that this woman could tell a story and so animated with it got, her grandchild and the great-grands, interested in it, and went to university and majored in English and literature and became anthropologists and historians and whatever because of listening to these stories of Q and Middle Caicos and result of Q and Middle Caicos.
I lived in the UK for 3 years and I came back home, and the question would be asked, what brought me back here? I remembered so many times my grandma sat me down while I was eating my dinner and her just sharing countless and countless stories of her childhood growing up here, the things she overcame. And I said to myself, well, if Grammy could do it here under those conditions, I can do it under these conditions as well and build a legacy here. And I want to thank each and every one of you for answering the call. Sometimes we feel like we have to do something big. It can be as little as knowing the right ingredients to put inside your journey cake. That's how you keep the culture alive. You don't have to do something big. But if you want to take it to another level, you can. But knowing what the words mean, learning the local dialect, right? But go ahead. Miss Morgan. Oh, great. Can we turn Miss Morgan's? Oh.
No, I was saying they can call, what they do now with the Johnny cake, they can call it loaded Johnny cake. So we'll know the difference. But we want to stick to our culture.
That's a nice one, loaded Johnny cake. Now, I'm not sure if we have any questions from social media. Do we have any questions? No? So it's only fitting, as the theme is From Foundations to Future, preserving our culture, building our legacy, that we end with that, building our legacy with the entrepreneur on the panel, right? Ms. Fulford, final word from the entrepreneur. Why is preserving cultural authenticity our greatest economic competitive advantage moving forward?
The reason why it's our greatest advantage moving forward is because what makes Turks and Caicos unique is the culture. It's not the sun, sea, and sand. You can find beautiful beaches anywhere in the world, but what makes the people? That's why people come to Turks and Caicos. Whether they come knowingly to interact with people to learn about us, or they come unknowingly, at the end of the day, what they're looking for is something authentic, something that they can't experience anywhere else. You don't want to come to Turks and Caicos and feel like you're in the States. You don't want to come to Turks and Caicos and feel like you're in Bahamas or Jamaica. You want to come to Turks and Caicos and find out what makes the people unique, what makes this island unique. And so just building on that, but in a very sustainable way, like David mentioned, in a way that still preserves the culture, in a way that doesn't overly monetize it, where you dilute the culture just because you want to package it in a way to allow persons to experience it. And I would liken it to, you think about, you go to Jamaica and you eat jerk chicken, right? And it's watered down jerk chicken. And for me, I'm always upset at stuff like that, because I'm like, if I come for jerk chicken, I know that the jerk chicken is supposed to be spicy. So that expectation means either I'm going to eat it the way that it's prepared or I don't eat it. And so we have to not dilute our culture because we want to appease different people come. And what they need to do is experience us authentically. And they have a choice to experience or not to experience, but to remain true to who we are as a people.
Did anyone want to add to that?
I support it 100%.
All right, there we go.
Aye.
Ms. Morgan? Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Higgs.
I would just like to add to that when we look at our islands, and we look at Provo, in particular in the diversity of the islands now. And we can all, let's be truthful, it ain't changing no time soon. Okay? No time, it's not changing. So I think that what we need to do right now, like Mary talked about, when we talk about authentic culture, and we need to have programs, and we need to be able to educate people about the Turks and Caicos Islands, and when they interact. And tourism, it's our number one industry, okay? And we're dependent upon it. But we also need to be proud of who we are as a people and market that and sell our traditions and our heritage and our history and our culture. And the people that are here, that are in our country, that are making a living from our country, that are thriving in these islands, must be able to be proud of and must know about the country, about the culture, about the heritage, because you're interacting with the people that come and visit us and the people that build our economy every day. So you should know something, about the culture. So we need to broaden that, and we need to educate people about who we are. And
I think we are too quiet. We are too quiet. We need to we have a voice. We have to realize we have a voice. So we need to wake up. We need to start talking. We need to take some action to keep our culture, alive. We are the source of the culture here in the Turks and Caicos. So what happened? We are the source. So we need to get up and shine. Let our little light shine. We might be outnumbered, but we can shine. When you turn that light on, you would see it. All right? So we just need to open up. Open up and just let people know who we are. Okay? That's what I think we should do. We need to spread this culture. We need to make this culture contagious. All right? I'm passionate about it. And I mean it. I would do whatever I have to do, David. Let's go.
Well, listen, let me tell you, before we end this panel, I just want to say that I am very, very happy to be here under this banner of the Department of Culture, from Foundation to the Future. To also remind those who are out there watching that on next Thursday at the Fish Fry, we have a special TCI cultural event going on. I will be there and co-hosting. Also, Sivil will be there with her group doing maypole and dancing. And we're going to have a real TCI show. The other thing that I want to announce is that I am working right now with Beaches. I used to be the entertainment manager at Beaches for many, many years. And I'm now working with Beaches, and from November 3rd, every Monday night, they're going to have TCI night. And it's going to be a show choreographed, directed, and hosted by me. So it's going to be, so those tourists that I'm getting that mixed match of whatever they was doing over there, that's no longer there. It's going to be TCI Culture Night. I am also revamping TUCA, the Turks and Caicos Cultural Group. Now, in the past, there was this whole concept about using young people. The problem with that is this. The young people need to learn from the elders. And we need more elder people in the cultural group performing. Because not only do we show that the culture is being passed on, we just don't sit back and rely on the young children, because they're going to do it, but they're not really going to have that sense to really own it until they see an adult performing. I want to be like him. I want to be like her. So, Ms. Taylor, I'll be coming to you about this, because I really want to give, and anyone out there listening or watching, if you tell poetry, if you are a singer, if you are a ripsaw player, if you play the drum, if you dance, I want to hear from you. You'll be hearing from me soon. So we really want to get Tuka back up and running. And by the way, I have a quiz for those people if you come to the fish fry on Thursday. The logo of the Department of Culture has 3 people on it. There's a drummer, there's a dancer, and a guy playing the ripsaw. If you come to fish fry on Thursday and you can tell me the names of those 3 people, I'll give you $100. Talk about monetizing culture. All right. If you can tell me the name of the 3 people on that logo, I will give you $100. But only if you come to fish fry. If you don't come, keep my money.
That one on the end ain't got no heel, so that can't be me.
Huh?
I say the one on the end doesn't have heel, so that one definitely ain't me. But Mr. Clare, you've been waiting.
I said earlier on that we have a clash of cultures, and I mentioned about the expatriate community. I'm not certain if we realized what is happening in Providenciales. If I were to tell you that there are over 5,000 Jamaicans here, you'd be shocked perhaps. How many Haitian nationals we have living here? How many Filipinos here? We have this clash of cultures. These people have brought their own things with us. We talk about our food, and the lady just mentioned about the spice in the food. I specifically asked, who brought curry here? We have to make sure that we protect what we have as our own culture. But how many of our local people are prepared to get in the kitchen in these different restaurants? Very few of any. So we got a lot of homework to do. We can't fool ourselves. These people are here, and they're here for a reason. Okay, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're shortchanging us in some respects. So for what it's worth, you all out there, we have to do what we have to do to keep the Turks and Caicos Islands culture alive. Thank you very much.
Well, that concludes our panel.
Okay, sorry guys. I know we were about to conclude, but we have 2 questions from social media. The first being, what are some ways that we can keep storytelling alive? And the second one is, we all know that attention spans have significantly dropped. So what can we do as a Department of Culture or as custodians of culture do to curtail our youth from being victims to the attention span demon, causing them to not be able to really hear these stories or engage in these type of discussions?
Powerful questions.
When it comes to storytelling, and especially with our youth, with technology and social media, and we know the attention span is like, because everything, the access to everything is just so quick, So I think that it needs to be an immersive experience. They need to be involved. They need to be active and not just sitting, because like we said, after a few minutes, they're done. Their mind has wandered off somewhere else and they're not listening. So they have to be a part of it, have to be a part of the story, and it has to be something active, something where they're doing something, they're involved in the outcome of the story, or they're involved in the action of the story. And so we have to be more, and like, everyone was saying, we're talking about the elders and getting the elders involved. And I could remember, people like my grandmother and great-grandmother, telling stories and being so animated with these stories that, I was just so excited, and my cousins and everyone, we sit around and we listen. But I think now with this generation, it's going to take more than just being animated, with the story. It has to be an immersive experience where they're involved in it and where they are active in the story and learning the root of the story and learning the story by acting it out.
Am I on? There are over 120 different nationalities living in Providence Yarlis. I think we have to identify in each community persons who still remember the stories. We have to make a directory of these persons. And the Ministry of Education and Culture must seek them out. Today, people are not quite willing to do things for the sake of doing it. Yes. There is a cost. The bottom line is that. So my advice is to find someone in each of these communities who are willing and tell them, we're going to pay you to tell us these stories and have it recorded. Thank you.
When it comes to storytelling, the art of storytelling is the storyteller has to be animated. The storyteller has to use aspects of artistic expression through acting. You can't just sit down, oh, it was Babuki and Barab. You can say, man, once upon a time was a very good time. The monkey chewed tobacco, he spit white lime, cockroach jump from bank to bank, and he swear he would never jump in. Now my story begins. Listen, there was a guy, his name was Babuki. Now Babuki was big. Babuki had a big belly. He'd walk around the town, look at my belly. Now Barabi was skinny. You say, where you get that belly from? Say, okay, you're skinny behind away here. That's my belly. You see, right away you engage. So storytelling has to have that flair behind it and use dialect. If your culture does not use a language, because your dialect and your language is direct to your culture. So don't be afraid. Yes, we can speak the Queen's English, but by down we can say in, I know, yes. Where your daddy? My daddy gone to work. He ain't here. He to work. All right?
My dad was a good storyteller too,
Yes,
David.
this is my shot. I go to church. You know, use dialect and use animation, and I guarantee those young children will listen. Even the adults will listen. But you have to involve and I guess, induce a sense of acting with it so the story comes alive. And that is the key to make the story come alive. To compete with the social media, to compete with the movies, to compete with the cartoons.
Ms. Musgrove, I think you were saying you're about to say something.
Well, he took the words out of my mouth. However, I think we're too busy monetizing our culture rather than focusing on preserving it. I think we need to focus on more preservations than selling out our culture. I think that's the issue here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, that we're willing to sell out everything, you know, at risk of losing our culture.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that now concludes this panel discussion. I want to thank each and every one of you for making such valuable contributions. And as I said earlier, it's the little things. It's going to the fish fry next Thursday and going to the different cultural booths and learning. It's going to Blue Hills to visit Miss Morgan and to learn how to dance and Maple Platte. It's going to the National Trust and learning about our history. It's sitting down one afternoon. Make sure you bring something for you, maybe some proper journey cake for you and Mr. Clare to have some tea. Let him tell you some stories about growing up in East Harbor. It's going on a cultural tour with Miss Mary Fulford. It's allowing your children to partake in cultural quizzes with Miss Musgrove. You know, it's the little things that keep this culture going. Mr. Clare, any final words?
No, I did 2 lectures and I turned them into a book. The cultural history of South Caicos and the cultural history of the Turks and Caicos. The ministry have them. I'm not certain what the minister has done with them yet. But that's a start. But I think it's been a very interesting evening here. And as I said, when we leave the stage, what is going to happen to what we said. That's important, that we let the folks know, because this is important. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now invite the director, Ms. Forbes, to the stage to give the vote of thanks. Thank you, guys, once again.
Good evening, everyone. These were some very interesting discussions tonight. Don't you all agree?
Yes.
Protocol having already been established, on behalf of the Department of Culture and Heritage, I extend a heartfelt thanks to our gracious host, Mr. Leo Lightbourne, for your warmth and skill in guiding this evening's discussions. To our panelists, all of you, so beautiful tonight. Thank you for your meaningful insights and reflections. To Mr. David Bowen, your poem painted a picture of vividness of hardship and triumph of our ancestors, reminding us of the strength and resilience that build this nation. We look forward to the return of Tuka. To Mr. Clare, thank you for grounding us in the realities of what life once was and how far we have come, especially your stories regarding your father having to work in our salt ponds. To Mrs. Dean, your reflection on traditional food like journey cake reminds us that while all of the enhancements are welcomed, preservation of the original methods keeps our culture and culinary heritage alive. To Mrs. Musgrove, thank you for reminding us to embrace our culture without losing our own. Protecting and promoting our traditions through storytelling is something that we desperately need to bring back. So in addition to David Bowen and his storytelling, we need to ensure that these skills are rooted in our educational system so that our students are excellent storytellers. To Mrs. Mary Fulford, so sorry. Your call to offer visitors an authentic Turks and Caicos Islands experience captured the essence of who we are as a people. To the dedicated team at the Department of Culture, Mrs. Prosper and Ms. Bean over in Grand Turk, thank you so much for your hard work, your dedication, and your creativity. These ladies are so committed, you would not begin to understand their hard work. Also, to Mrs. Higgs, we thank you for your contribution and everything that you have done, not just for the Department of Culture, but also for all of the schools and all of the students that you're so always willing and able to help. She was with us earlier on at the Enid Capron Primary School, and she's always there to support wherever and whenever possible, especially as it relates to our culture, heritage, and history. As we celebrate under the theme, From Foundation to Future, preserving our culture, building our legacy, let us remember that culture is not static. It is growing and it is evolving. Our aim is to integrate our emerging communities into this journey, ensuring that everyone who calls the Turks and Caicos Islands home understands, respects, and contributes to the preservation of our shared heritage. So may we continue to honor our past, celebrate our present, and build a proud cultural legacy for generations to come. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to everyone watching online, everyone here tonight. We thank you, and we hope that you continue to celebrate our culture and heritage during this month and the remainder of this year and every day in these Turks and Caicos Islands. Thank you.